तं सर्वगुणविन्यासं
जीवे मायामयेन्यदा तं चानुशयम् आत्मस्थं असौ अनुशयी पुमान् ज्ञानवैराग्यवीर्येण स्वरूपस्थो जहात् प्रभु Prithu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity onto the supreme controller of illusory energy. Being released from all the designations by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free by knowledge and renunciation and by the spiritual force of his devotional service. In this way, being situated in his original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he gave up this body as a Prabhu or controller of the senses. Right? So when you perform nicely your Krishna consciousness, chanting nicely, serving nicely, at the time of death, Krishna will personally come to take you back, or some devotee will come take you back, and they will arrange for you to give up your body easily. You don't have to do all this yoga, the giving up everything and then leaving the body. You don't have to. Alright. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada writes, when Prithu Maharaj became spiritually powerful by the enhancement of his spiritual knowledge, jnana, and renunciation of material desires, he became a Prabhu. So we are all not actually Prabhus. So we are still struggling with our senses. Or master of senses, sometimes called Goswami or Swami. This means that he was no longer controlled by the influence of material energy. So no matter how strong the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance is acting, he is not disturbed. He can still think how to please Krishna. That's his main thing. When one is strong enough to give up the influence of material energy, he is called Prabhu. In this verse, the word Swarupastha is also very significant. The real identity of the individual soul lies in the understanding or attaining the knowledge that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. So that's the other thing that we should constantly understand and think, that I am not this body, I am actually the servant of Krishna. So how should a servant of Krishna act daily? Irregardless of what your situation is, with whatever other living entity, you should always say, if I am a servant of Krishna, is this my proper behavior? So this helps us catch ourselves from doing wrong things or material activities. Okay. Another thing is, now you know what one of the meaning of Prabhu is, so don't go and tell people that you are not Prabhu. That's not the goal here. So understand what? In your heart you should then know how you should be the Prabhu. Then you can continue in your life properly. Okay? This understanding is called Swarupopalabdhi. By culturing devotional service, the devotee gradually comes to understand his actual relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means he understands his Swarup position. Okay? And then when he understands exactly what his relationship with Krishna, it is called Swarupastha. Okay? In the last paragraph, Prabhupada says, not the last paragraph, the next paragraph, in this verse the word Prabhu is also significant. As stated before, when one is completely self-realized and acts according to that position, he can be called Prabhu. The spiritual master is addressed as Prabhupada because he is completely self-realized soul. Now Prabhupada is not directly saying, but he is telling everyone he is a self-realized soul. The word Pada means position, and Prabhupada indicates that he is given the position of Prabhu or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he acts on the behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada is saying he is acting on behalf of Krishna. He's not going to just say, he's too humble to say it, and he doesn't need to, we know. Unless one is a Prabhu or controller of the senses, he cannot act as spiritual master, who is authorized by the Supreme Prabhu or Lord Krishna. In his verses praising the spiritual master, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Shakshat Daridvena Samasta Shashre Yuktas Tatha Bhavyata Eva Saddi. The spiritual master is honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. Thus Prithu Maharaj can also be called Prabhupada, or is described here in Prabhu. A couple of sentences later, Prabhupada says, because he appeared on this earth as an ideal king, and because it is the duty of the king to instruct the citizens in the execution of devotional service, he followed all the regulated principles of devotional service in order to teach others. Now, how many times Prabhupada has said the same sentence over and over again? So many times. So that you don't get confused. Because after so much we will still get confused. And say, I have to do like Prithu Maharaj. His point is, it's a different time, place and circumstances. Okay?
Age. Different age.
Yeah, different age totally. So there's a different execution of bhakti. Text 19. Archina Maharajni
Archina Maharajni
Patni Anugatavanam
Tatpatni Anugatavanam
Sukumari Atat Arhacha
Sukumari Atat Arhacha
Yat Padvyam Sparshanam Bhuvaha.
Yat Padyam Sparshanam Bhuvaha.
The queen, the wife of Prithu Maharaj, whose name was Archi, followed her husband into the forest. Since she was a queen, her body was very delicate. Although she did not deserve to live in the forest, she voluntarily touched her lotus feet to the ground. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about queens, how in those days, in Vedic times, how they were dedicated to their husband, to the culture, and how they acted. So you can read about that, and you can see, he talks about Sita. He talks about Archi, the Gandhari, the wife of Dhritarashtra, how they all also followed the husband to the forest. Right? Basically, they were very ideal and very chaste. Of course, circumstances, their husbands were also very qualified. So, cannot compare nowadays. Kind of difficult. Text 20. Ativa Bhartu Vrata Dharma Nishtaya Shushrusaya Cha Deha Yatraya Navindatartim Parikashita Pisa Priyaskara Sparshanamana Nirvriti. Although she was not accustomed to such difficulties, Queen Archi followed her husband in the regulated principles of living in the forest like great sages. She lay down on the ground and ate only fruits, flowers and leaves, and because she was not fit for these activities, she became frail and thin. Yet because of the pleasure she derived in serving her husband, she did not feel any difficulties. So nowadays people don't want to, will think when they read this, oh, she became thin, so they'll think, oh, this is a good way of losing weight. But she was feeling pleasure in doing those activities. But this is austerities and regulated principles in the forest. But how many people are willing to do such austerities nowadays? They want everything and also the good things. So it doesn't work like that. Because she was feeling pleasure serving her husband, she didn't feel any difficulty. But in most cases, when people do it for their own sense gratification, there's a lot of pain involved, right? Losing weight and all that. It's not an easy situation. So again, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks how a young boy, young girls are taught in the Vedic culture, and how sannyasi also acts, and how even the wife of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vishnu Priya also, how she performed austerity when her husband left, right? She will chant, let's say she chants 100 rounds, she will only take 100 grains of rice, and then she'll cook that and she'll offer and eat that. So according to how much she is chanting, that's how many rice sing rice, okay, not hands. So she'll be chanting whole day 64 rounds, for example, 1 lakh, right? So therefore she'll only take 64 grains to cook and eat for that day. This is the because but she was feeling a lot of ecstasy in performing. Therefore, the body doesn't really need all those food unnecessarily. She was living off spiritual ecstasy. So towards the that paragraph about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada writes, when one engages in austerities, his body generally becomes lean and thin. Becoming fat is not a very good qualification in spiritual life, because a person who's engaged in spiritual life must reduce the comforts of body, namely eating, sleeping and mating, to a minimum. Although Queen Archie became very thin from living in the forest, according to regulatory principles, she was not unhappy, for she was enjoying the honor of saving her great husband. So these are the retirement activities of a wife. You can say that. Text 21. Deham vipanna kila chetanadikam
Deham vipanna kila chetanadikam
Patyu prithivya dayitasya chatmana
Pratyu divyadayitasya chatmana
Alakshya kinchit cha vilapya sasati
Alakshya chinchit chapilasya sasati
Chitam ataropayat adrisanuni
Chitam adharopayadadrisanuni.
When Queen Archie saw that her husband, who had been so merciful to her and the earth, no longer showed symptoms of life, she lamented for a little while and then built a fiery pyre on top of a hill and placed the body of her husband on it. Alright? It's normal when someone you have lived for so long and loved suddenly dies, you will have some feelings and you'll cry. But one shouldn't lament, because you understand, as Prabhupada says, Deino Yasmin Vatari, you understand the person has left the body and gone on, so we should also move on like that. Alright? So Prabhupada writes in the second paragraph, the queen should have been afraid of being alone in the forest with the body of her husband. But since she was a great wife of a great personality, she lamented for a while, but immediately understood that she had many duties to perform. Thus, instead of wasting her time in lamentation, she immediately prepared a fiery pyre on top of a hill and then placed the body of her husband on it to be burned. So she knew what to do. She didn't wait. Sometimes, remember the difference when King Vena died, his mother embalmed him instead of burning. In a sense, that was, like we said, the Lord has arranged it for Prithu Maharaj to take birth. But here you can say, as soon as he was dead, she didn't embalm and then keep for until she died. No. She immediately said, okay, time to act on plan B. Like that.
So the wife is doing the
I'm sure they, yeah.
So which is, you were talking about this before.
Yeah.
This is valid.
Yeah. So she's ready, now she's put the body, put a wood around the body, put it on fire. There's nobody else. Prabhupada says she's all alone. Text 22. Viddhaya krityam radini jalapluta
Vidaya krityam radini jalapluta
Tatvodakam bharturudara karmana
Tatvodakam bharturudara karmana
Natvadivistam tridasham strit paritya
Tattvadivistam stridasham stritya
Viveshavanim dhyayati bhartripado
Viveshavanim dhyayati bhartripado.
After this, the queen executed the necessary funerary functions and offered oblations of water. After bathing in the river, she offered obeisances to various demigods situated in the sky in the different planetary systems. She then circumambulated the fire and while thinking of the lotus feet of her husband, entered its flames. So it's like they call Sati. But there's another word. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the entrance of a chaste wife into the flames of the fire of a dead husband is known as sahagamana, which means dying with the husband. They were doing it even until Srila Prabhupada's time also, but now it stopped. The British actually came and stopped because most of the ladies were afraid to do it, and the people would force them, and that's not correct. You cannot force people. No. Right? Text 23. Vilokyanugatam sadvim
Vilokyanugatam sadvim
Vrittum vira varampatim
Vrittum vira varampatim
Tustu varada devair
Tustu varada devair
Deva patnya sahasrasaha
Deva patnya sahasrasha.
After observing this brave act performed by the chaste wife Archie, wife of the great king Prithu, many thousands of the wives of the demigods along with their husbands offered prayers to the queen, for they were very much satisfied. It is a brave act. Who would walk into a fire unless you're completely out of this bodily concept? Scary now you think about it. How do you, if you want to walk, you cannot.
It's like suicide.
Huh?
It's like suicide.
It's like suicide, but this is sanctioned suicide.
Yeah.
It's according to Vedic understanding proper. Wherever, if the husband dies and is in fire, if the wife goes in, she'll go to the same destination as the husband. Yeah, that's how it is.
I mean, Krishna consciousness is taken care by the sons, right?
Yeah, yeah. We don't do this now, so don't think about it. Next 24. Kurvatya kusumasaram
Kurvatya kusumasaram
Asmin mandara sanuni
Tasmin mandara sanuni
Nadatsvamaratu yeshu
Nadatsvamaratu yeshu
Vrinanti sma parasparam.
Prananti sma parasparam.
At that time the demigods were situated on the top of Mandara hill, and all their wives began to shower flowers on the funeral pyre and began to talk among themselves as follows. So they were very amazed by this that they were watching. Text 25. Devya uchu
Devya
ahoyam vadurdanya
Ahoyam vadurdanya
yachaivam bhujam patim
Yachayam bhujam patim
sarvatmana patim beje
Sarvatmana patim beje
Yagnesham Shri Vaduriva.
Yagnesham Shri Vaduriva.
Wives of the demigods say, all glories to Queen Archie. We can see that this queen of the great King Prithu, the emperor of all the kings of the world, has served her husband with mind, speech and body exactly as the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of Godhead, Yagnesha or Vishnu. So in this verse, Prabhupada says, indicate that Queen Archie served her husband just as the goddess of fortune served the supreme personality of Godhead, Vishnu. We can observe that even in the history of this world, when Lord Krishna, the supreme Vishnu, was ruling over Dwaraka, Queen Rukmini, who was the chief of all Krishna's queens, used to serve Lord Krishna personally in spite of having many hundreds of maidservants to assist her. Similarly, the goddess of fortune, Vaikuntha planets, also serves Narayana personally, although there are many thousands of devotees prepared to serve the Lord. This practice is also followed by the wives of the demigods, and in the days past, the wives of men also followed this same principle. In Vedic civilization, the husband and wife were not separated by such man-made laws as divorce. We should understand the necessity of maintaining family life in human society, and should thus abolish this artificial law known as divorce. The husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness and follow in footsteps of Lakshmi Narayana or Krishna Rukmini. Rukmini Krishna. In this way, peace and harmony can be possible within this world. So Prabhupada is totally against divorce.
Right.
Because it just causes problems. And then the woman has no protection, and then she'll look for some guy and then marry and have other children, so many problems. Right? But in Krishna consciousness, they just have to come to the temple, marry Krishna and serve. Don't have to worry about any other problems. remember reading one conversation when one lady was arguing with I think Krishna Maharaj, and then came in front of Prabhupada, and then so she was saying, no Prabhupada, I want to come, and then Prabhupada said, why don't you marry? She said, no, I don't want to marry. And then they were going to go on and forth. Then she said, I'll just marry Krishna. Now Prabhupada said, okay, you can stay in the temple if you just simply marry Krishna and serve Krishna. Like that. So the mood is, just to serve like that. Because he didn't want single woman like that. And they'll cause problems like that. He was worried like that. Text 26. Sai sanunam vrajati udvam
Saisanunam Rajachudvam
anuvainyam patim sati
Anuvainyam Patim Sati
Pasyatasman adityache
Pasyatasmati Yachir
durvibhavyena karmana.
Durvibhavyena Karmana.
Why should the demigods continue? Just see how this chaste lady Archie, by dint of her inconceivable pious activities, is still following her husband upward as far as we can see. So means they are going past the heavenly planetary systems. Both Prithu Maharaj's airplane and the airplane carrying Queen Archie were passing out of the vision of the ladies of the higher planetary systems. These ladies were simply astonished to see how Prithu Maharaj and his wife achieved such an exalted position. So it's just the plane is just going. These are planes coming from Vaikuntha taking it. Generally, most people go to higher planetary system and that's it. But these are going beyond, so they were like astonished. Just see, even she is going to Vaikuntha. So in the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes, towards the second line, third line, all of this is possible simply by durvibhavyena karmana, inconceivable activity. Prithu Maharaj was a pure devotee and his wife Queen Archie simply followed her husband. So by default she is also a pure devotee. Thus they can both be considered pure devotees and thus they are capable of performing inconceivable activities. Such activities are not possible for ordinary men. Indeed, ordinary men cannot even take to the devotional service of the Lord. Right? So they come to the temple, you ask them, they say no time. How can ordinary women maintain such vows of chastity and follow their husbands in all respects? Mostly they will divorce. A woman does not need to attain high qualifications. But if she simply follows in the footsteps of her husband, who must be a devotee, then both husband and wife attain liberation and are promoted to the Vaikuntha lokas. This is evinced by the inconceivable activities of Maharaj Prithu and his wife. Of course, nowadays the woman should have qualification because there are many unqualified men. And then when they marry them, they cannot deliver them to Krishna. Therefore, they should be also protected in terms of materially also should be. Otherwise, who's going to buy them stuff and things like that? So we cannot sentimentally think, oh yeah, we should do this. Ideally, yes. But if you don't have that quality of men, there will be always some problem.
Because otherwise, why did Prabhupada give women also the chance 16
Exactly. And then giving second initiation. Because he saw all these things. But what he's talking about here is that is the best. If both the husband and wife practice nicely, then you can do it. But if they're not practicing, or one practice or the other one, it's just chaos in the family. And we have seen that also many times. But if the husband is very good, following very nice, then the woman don't need anything. She can just sit at home. And there are many cases like that also. They just take care of the family, worship at home, deity worship, and they are doing very nice Krishna conscious activity like that. And then if they need something else, they go online or they go on teleconference and they do
some preaching.
Preaching, congregational preaching, Srimad Bhagavatam, chant a day, chapter a day, all those kind of things. So those things are going on and they are very happy. So all these are possible if you have if you know how to practice properly. If you don't practice properly, then everything is a chaos. Text 27. Esham durabam kim tu anyam
Tesham durabam kimananyam
Adhyanam bhagavat padam
Adhyanam bhagavat padam
Bhuvilola yusho yevai
Bhuvilolayusho yevai
Naiskarmyam sadayanti uta.
Naiskaryam sadayantyuta.
In this material world, every human being has a short span of life. But those who engage in devotional service go back home, back to Godhead, for they are actually on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing which is not available. Otherwise, everything here is a problem. Unless you are Krishna conscious, everything will cause problem in this material world. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada writes, third sentence, generally, the process of jnana, yoga and karma executed life after life before one gets a chance to render pure devotional service to the Lord. That means you accumulate agyata sukriti and then it builds up after many lifetimes to become shraddha. Then you take up devotional service. This chance is given by the grace of a pure devotee, and it is in this way only that one can actually attain liberation. In the context of this narration, the wives of the demigods repented because although they had the opportunity of a birth in a higher planetary system, a lifetime spanning millions of years, and all material comforts, they were not as fortunate as Prithu Maharaj and his wife, who were actually surpassing them. In other words, Prithu Maharaj and his wife scorned promotion to the higher planetary systems and even to Brahmaloka because the position which they were attaining was incomparable. So that is the nice point. So basically what the demigoddesses are saying is all this karma, jnana and yoga are useless because they only stuck there, they have to die. So they were appreciating bhakti. Text 28. Savanchito bhatatmadru
Savanchito bhatatmadru
Krichrena mahata bhuvi
Krichrena mahata bhuvi
Labdva pavadyam manusyam
Labdva pavadyam manusyam
Vishayeshu visajjate.
Vishayeshu visajjate.
Any person who engages himself within this material world in performing activities that necessitate great struggle and who, after obtaining a human form of life, which is a chance to attain liberation from miseries, undertakes the difficult task of fruitive activities, must be considered to be cheated and envious of his own self. So they are also saying the same thing, which means these demigoddesses are pretty intelligent. Okay? They're saying if you take birth, you should actually perform devotional activities, not fruitive activities. And in the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes what Jiva Goswami advises, that in this human form of life, one's only aim should be to go back home, back to Godhead. The word savanchita indicates that once a person has obtained the human form of life, he is actually cheated if he does not make preparations to go back home, back to Godhead. The position of all non-devotees who are not interested in going back to Godhead is very much lamentable, for the human form of life is meant for executing devotional service and nothing else. And therefore, it's the reason why we go out to preach to people and attract people so that they can understand that there's something different or something more permanent than this material existence. Okay? Otherwise, you keep taking birth over and over again, doing karma, doing jnana, karma, jnana, so many lifetimes wasting. Okay? Text 29. Maitreya vacha
Maitreya vacha
Stuvati swamara srishu
Stuvati swamara strishu
Pratilokam gatavadu
Pratilokam gatavadu
Yam va atma vidam duryo
Yam atmavidam duryo
Vanya prapachyutta Ashraya.
Vainyaparaparishashraya.
Great sage Maitreya continued speaking. My dear Vidura, when the wives of the denizens of heaven were thus talking amongst themselves, Queen Archie reached the planet which her husband Maharaj Prithu, the topmost self-realized soul, had attained. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about if the wife dies with the husband in the same fire, he gets the same destination. Then he says, in this material world there's a planet known as Patiloka, just as there is a planet known as Pitriloka. But in this verse, the word Patiloka does not refer to any planet within this material universe. For Prithu Maharaj, being topmost among self-realized souls, certainly returned home back to Godhead and attained one of the Vaikuntha planets. So, when it says Patiloka, it doesn't mean this Pitriloka.
Patiloka is where the Pati has gone.
Yeah, people talk like that. But there is a name like that in the Vaikuntha planet. Most of the planetary names, everything is coming from spiritual names. So, right? All the names we have is also spiritual names. So we should understand it. Queen Archie also entered Patiloka. But this planet is not in the material universe. For she actually entered the planet which her husband attained. In the material world also, when a woman dies with a husband, she again unites with him in the next birth. So therefore, Prithu Maharaj and Queen Archie are in Vaikuntha planets. Now, then Prabhupada talks about Vaikuntha planets. This is a very interesting point he makes. In the Vaikuntha planets, there are husbands and wives. But there is no question of their giving birth to children or having sex life. In the Vaikuntha planets, both husbands and wives are extraordinarily beautiful and they are attracted to one another, but they do not enjoy sex life. Indeed, they consider sex not to be very relishable because both husband and wife are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness and in glorifying and chanting the glories of the Lord. So they are only serving the Lord.
One question.
Yeah.
Like, material world is a replication or it's a reflection of the spiritual world. So that means are there no children?
Some type of reflection.
Are there no children in the spiritual world? I mean, Vaikuntha Loka.
Well, the Kumaras are there, right? There are, but I don't think in the Vaikuntha planets, no. Not that I've read about it. But in Krishna's planet, yeah. So if you want that kind relationship, then it's in Krishna's planet. But in all other planets, it's Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Shashti. All these are Narayana forms.
Prabhu, you asked this question in Brahma Samhita also, like in Krishna's planet, when all the kids goes to their parents, and then I think Maharaj said that it's just the bhava, right? When kids, after playing with Krishna as a cowherd kids, small kids,
Yes.
right? They go back and every parent wanted Krishna as their son.
Yes.
So I think it's just the bhava. There are small kids, but I don't think so that's the result of.
No, he's talking about Vaikuntha planet.
Right, yeah.
But not in Vaikuntha planet.
No,
Vaikuntha
in
you don't
Vaikuntha
have
planet.
that. It's only from Ayodhya onwards. You have children.
Mother, father.
Yeah, not from Vaikuntha planet. So that, as she says, if that's the bhava, then it's from the highest Vaikuntha planet is Ayodhya. And from that you can have children. Yeah. That's my understanding. Okay, cool. You have to go. In the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, in the middle of the next paragraph, one who is advanced in devotional service is never attracted by sex life. And as soon as one becomes detached from sex life and proportionately attached to the service of the Lord, he actually experiences living in the Vaikuntha planets. In the ultimate issue, there is actually no material world. But when one forgets the service of the Lord and engages himself in the service of the senses, he is said to be living in the material world. Text 30. Ittam bhutanubhavosau
Itam bhutanubhavasau
ritu sa bhagavatamaha
Ritu sa bhagavatam
kititam tasya charitam
Kirtitam tasya charitam
uddama charitasyate.
Uddama
Charitashyate.
Maitreya continued. The greatest of all devotees, Maharaj Prithu, was very powerful, and his character was liberal, magnificent, and magnanimous. Thus I have described him to you as far as possible. Text 31. Yaidam sumahat punyam
Ya idam sumahat punyam
Shraddhaya vahitapate
Yatyaya vahitapate
Shavayat shinu yatvapi
Shavayashriyavapi
Sapito padavim yad.
Saprito padavimya.
Any person who describes the great characteristics of King Prithu with faith and determination, whether he reads or hears of them himself or helps others to hear of them, is certain to attain the very planet which Maharaj Prithu attained. In other words, such a person also returns home to the Vaikuntha planets, back to Godhead. So now is the boons.
Bones for
So
us.
those who have read and listening, you get boons. Purport. Rama writes, when we speak of Vishnu, we also refer to that which relates to Vishnu. Vishnu Tadiya, okay, connected to Vishnu. In the Shiva Purana, Lord Shiva recommends Vishnu worship to be topmost worship, and better than Vishnu worship is Tadiyanam. Better than Vishnu worship is worship of the Vaishnava, anything that is related to Vishnu. The fact is explained herein that hearing and chanting about Vaishnava is as good as hearing and chanting about Vishnu. Now Maitreya has explained that anyone who hears about Prithu Maharaj with attention also attains the planet which Maharaj Prithu attained. There is no duality between Vishnu and the Vaishnava, and this is called Advaya Jnana. That means they are one and the same, but not in the sense of a Mayavadi. Okay? Alright. Text 32. Brahmana Brahma Varchasvi
Brahmano Brahma Vachasvi
Rajanyo Jagatipati
Rajanyo Jagatipati
Vaishyapatam Vitpati Shat
Yasyapatam Vidpatisha
Chudra Sattamatam Yat.
Chudra Sattamatamya.
If one hears of the characteristics of Prithu Maharaj and is a Brahmana, he becomes perfectly qualified with Brahminical powers. If he is a Kshatriya, he becomes a king of the world. If he is a Vaishya, he becomes a master of other Vaishyas and many animals. And if he is a Shudra, he becomes a topmost devotee.
Oh God, we are also
So all these are material things, okay, except for the devotee. Generally you can see, people get attracted for material reason and then hopefully they get purified. But in any case, remember we ran in the second canto, Akama Sarva Kama Moksha Kama. So that is what we should do. In any case, even if we have material desire, we should only worship
Lord Vishnu.
right. And taking birth in a family of Brahmanas or Kshatriya, it's not everyone can do that. We don't. So for us, we just follow what Srila Prabhupada has set up for us. If we just take up Krishna consciousness very nicely, we are topmost devotees, higher than the Brahmanas, so to speak. Text 33. Tri kritva idam akarnya
Tri kritva idam akarnya
naro nari atavadrita
Narunari atavadrita
apraja suprajatamo
Apraja suprajatamo
nidano dhanavattamaha.
Nidano dhanavattamaha.
It does not matter whether one is a man or woman. Anyone who, with great respect, hears this narration of Maharaj Prithu will become the father of many children if he is without children, and will become the richest of men if he is without money. All of you have children, so no need to worry about that. But you can become rich if you are without money. Now this again is for materialism. But we are not interested in materialistic things. For us, we just want to hear about Prithu Maharaj so that we can purify ourselves, our existence, and get his mercy also. Text 34. Aspashtakirti suyasha
Aspashtakirti suyasa
Murko bhavati pandita
Murko bhavati pandita
Idam swasti ayanam pumsam
Idam swasti ayanam pumsam
Mangalya nivaranam
Amangalya nivaranam.
Also one who hears this narration 3 times will become very reputable if he is not recognized in society, and he will become a great scholar if he is illiterate. In other words, hearing of the narrations of Prithu Maharaj is so auspicious that it drives away all bad luck. So for us, hearing about Prithu Maharaj is devotional service. Okay, so therefore it brings us good fortune in devotion. So we should read for that, not for getting recognition and so on. We are not into that. Text 35. Danyam yashashyam ayushyam
Dhanyam yashashyam ayusham
Swargyam kalimalapaham
Sargam kalimalapaham
Dharmartha kama mokshanam
Dharmartha kama mokshanam
Samyak siddhim abhipsubhi
Samyak siddhim abhikshubhi
Shraddhayaita anushravyam
Satyayata anushravyam
Chaturnam karanam param
Chaturnam karanam param.
By hearing the narration of Prithu Maharaj, one can become great, increase his duration of life, gain promotion to the heavenly planets, and counteract the contaminations of this age of Kali. In addition, one can promote the causes of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Therefore, from all sides, it is advisable for a materialistic person who is interested in such things to read and hear the narrations of the life and character of Prithu Maharaj.
Probably in text 31 it's mentioned that one will go back to same planet as Prithu Maharaj. Now it's mentioned as
Yeah, everything is correct. For a materialistic person, they get what they want.
okay.
For a devotee, he will go back to Vaikuntha planet. If you read and hear the narrations of life of Prithu Maharaj, you become a devotee. So therefore, for materialists who hear, oh, I get money and all, they'll come and hear automatically. So when they hear about Prithu Maharaj, their hearts will get purified and they'll become a devotee. And at the same time, they'll also get
Material fulfillment.
some their material life fulfilled, but they will become a devotee. That's the idea behind all these benedictions. Text 36. Vijayabhimuko Raja
Vijayabhimuko Raja
Srutvaitat abhiyatiyan
Srutvaitam abhiyatiyam
Balim tasmai aranti agre
Balam tasmai aranti agre
Rajana pritaveyata.
Rajana pritaveyata.
If a king who is desirous of attaining victory and ruling power chants the narration of Prithu Maharaj 3 times before going forth on his chariot, all subordinate kings will automatically render all kinds of taxes onto him as they rendered them onto Maharaj Prithu simply upon his order. So again, more benedictions. Unless you are a great king, nobody will respect you. So if you read this, if nobody respects you, they will become more respectful. Meaning you'll become a devotee and they'll respect. 37. Muktanya Sangha Bhagavati
Muktanya Samso Bhagavati
Amalam Bhakti Mudvahan
Amalam Bhakti Udbhavan
Vanyasya Charitam Punyam
Vanyasya Charitam Punyam
Srinuyachravayat Pate.
Srinuyachayamate.
A pure devotee is executing the different processes of devotional service may be situated in the transcendental position, being completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But even he, while discharging devotional service, must hear, read and induce others to hear about the character and life of Prithu Maharaj. So even a devotee should hear, that's the instruction here. Prabhupada says if he's a neophyte devotee, they only want to read Rasa Leela. But that's true. They only want to know the most fun, amazing thing, but actually that's not what we want, because both Prithu Maharaj's pastime and Krishna's pastime are same. They are both purifying and they're both liberating. Okay, so therefore we shouldn't see the differences like that. In the beginning, for a beginner devotee, when they read Prithu Maharaj's life, it's difficult. They don't like it. But if you read Krishna's pastime, oh, so wonderful, fighting, all those things. Or Ramayana is so much like. But after they get purified, they'll appreciate Prithu Maharaj. Right? Now you see he left, we feel separation from Prithu Maharaj. Right? He's gone, you know. Right? Don't you feel that? He's gone. Text 8. Vaichitraviya vihitam
Vaichitraviya vihitam
Mahan Mahatmya Suchakam
Mahan Mahatmya
Suchakam
Asmin Kritam Ati Martyam
Asmin Kritam Ati Matyam
Partavim Gatim Abnuyat.
Vardavim Gatimapnuya.
Great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, I have as far as possible spoken the narrations about Prithu Maharaj which enrich one's devotional attitude. Whoever takes advantage of these benefits also go back home, back to Godhead, like Maharaj Prithu. So again the same thing he said, na? Go to the same planet. So the word Sravayat mentioned in the previous verse indicates that one should not only read for himself but should also induce others to read and hear. That is called preaching. So we try. We try. Only some people will come and listen. Mostly people not interested. But we try. But you shouldn't get worried who comes or who don't come. Right? Text 39. Anudinam idam aderana shriman
Anudinam idam aderana shriman
Prithu charitam pradayam vimukta sangha
Prithu charitam pradayam vimukta sangha
Bhagavati bhava sindhu potapade
Bhagavati bhava sindhu potapade
Sachani guna labate ratim manusya
Sachani guna labate ratim manushya.
Whoever with great reverence and adoration regularly reads, chants and describes the history of Maharaj Prithu's activities will certainly increase unflinching faith and attraction for the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord's lotus feet are the boat by which one can cross the ocean of nescience. Bhava Sindhu Potapade. That's the lotus feet of the Lord are known as Mahatpadam. This means that the total source of material existence rests on the lotus feet of the Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, everything is emanating from Him. Couple of lines later, Prabhupada writes, one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord need not cross over the ocean, for he has already crossed it by virtue of his position at the Lord's lotus feet. That's nice. By hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord or the Lord's devotee, one can become firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. This position can also be achieved very easily by narrating the history of the life of Prithu Maharaj regularly every day. Right, so this is the end of the 23rd chapter. Thus end the Bhakti and the Purpose, the 4th canto, 23rd chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam and Maharaj Prithu's going back home. Joris, any comments?